massive mountain of waste has been dumped near the River Thames in Oxfordshire in England. Criminal gangs are making vast profits from illegal dumping, not just in the UK, but across Europe. So, why is this a growing phenomenon? And how can the authorities crack down on the gangs destroying our environment? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, criminal gangs are making millions out of illegally dumping waste across Europe. Europol believes waste trafficking is intensifying and they predict even more dumping in 2026. Local residents are furious. But how seriously does the law enforcement really take crime like this?
These are the images which has shocked the UK. A river of waste dumped illegally near a quiet English town close to the city of Oxford. Since July, when the alarm was first raised with the authorities, the amount of rubbish has grown to the heights of 6 meters, spreading across an area the size of 3 Olympic swimming pools. Anya Glazer moved to the area so she could swim locally and is a part of the River Guardian network.
There's like thousands of tons of illegal waste. It's shredded, a lot of plastic waste.
This is literally flowing chemicals straight into the River Cherwell.
When we were over there in the start of November, it was already spilling in, and there's also a ditch. So the perpetrators of this crime, they dug a space to fit this garbage pile, right? And so there's a water ditch that passes by the entire base. How has no one told anyone? We were swimming in the river. The residents in Kidlington have to know. They are literally just downstream. I mean, if you know that there is a mountain of trash right outside a township, you can let the residents of the town know so that they act accordingly.
The UK Environment Agency says because of an ongoing investigation, it can't comment on who is responsible. But a River Watch group believes it's organised crime. This kind of illegal waste trafficking is on the rise across Europe. The EU law enforcement agency, Europol, says gangs are exploiting domestic and commercial waste disposal processes because it's low risk and high profit. But it's the communities close to these unlawful landfills who are left living with the impact on their health, the land, and the wildlife.
Well, let's meet our guests to discuss this one. Here with me in the studio, I'm delighted to say we have Leane Hosea. She's an environmental journalist at Watershed Investigations. Dal Babu is a former chief superintendent with London's Metropolitan Police. And joining us from beautiful Florence in Italy, we have Lorenzo Buzzoni. He is an investigative journalist. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Leane, to you first of all, I actually live in Oxfordshire, so I'm quite aware of the issue of all of this illegal waste being dumped. It makes my blood boil. How do you feel when you see images like those?
I mean, obviously it is disgusting. And the thing about that dump in Oxfordshire, which you unfortunately have to pass often, it's not the only one. According to satellite data, they've estimated there's up to 8,000 illegal waste sites across the country, and that's just kind of an estimation. So this is a really widespread problem. And the problem about it is not just what it looks like, it's that you don't know what's in there. There could be all sorts of waste. There could be obviously commercial waste, domestic waste, but possibly even hazardous waste. You just don't know, and then there's nothing to stop it washing into the environment, going into the river, maybe into drinking water sources, just polluting our environment and possibly affecting our health.
Dal, we'll come to the policing of this in a few minutes' time, but this really makes the public angry, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, it can be a huge dump like we're talking about in Oxfordshire, but it can be just everyday items, fridges, mattresses, anybody will, going around, you talked about jogging to certain places, but if you walk around, you will see people being very, very selfish. There is every local authority has a facility for removing items, Sometimes they can be collected free of charge, but despite that, people will dump things and think nothing of it, and it's extremely frustrating for people to see, and for those people that use the facilities and do things correctly, it's even more frustrating.
Thanks, Dal.
We're talking about millions of tons, though, here, millions of tons of illegal waste, and that is also costing us, the taxpayer, up to possibly £1.6 billion in avoided tax if we think there's 8,000 sites out there.
Wow. Lorenzo, tell us about the situation in Italy. Do you have problems on this scale in your country?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, we are quite famous for this kind of a problem. There is a specific area in Italy, in the center of Italy, in the Naples area, and there lives more than 3 million of people, and in the last 30 years there was a big illegal business of the local organized crime that buried the hazardous waste under the soil and also contaminated all the area, not just soil but also the land agriculture. So it's a very important topic with big health consequences on the population, because the last studies revealed that the people live there has more possibility to have breast cancer, leukemia, malfunction, genetic malfunction, and also asthma. So it's something really important to talk about it, and for this reason also it's important to talk about it. The fact that in January of this year the European Court of Human Rights condemned in Italy because the Italian governments failed to protect the right of life of the people living there, and accused the Italian governments that they know about the contamination of the area, but they didn't do anything to monitor the situation, to stop the illegal waste dumping, and also to protect the people and the health consequences from health diseases that affect this population there. Now the things are changing, because now after this sentence, the Italian government has 2 years to clean up all the area, that it's a very big area. But the problem is that the cleanup will start now, and they planned to do all of this remediation in not less than 10 years. This is the optimistic forecast. And we have to say that in the last 12 years, there was some initial planning to clean up the area, but just the 6% of all the area was cleaned up. So the things went very slow, and now we have to clean up as soon as possible, also because European Commission is looking at us. And indeed, for this case, in the Naples area, the European Commission punished Italy, that was forced to pay more than 325 million euros in the last years. So it's something that unfortunately we are experiencing, and we need to solve as soon as possible. And in the last 40 years, we were not able to do it.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Dal, Lorenzo just mentioned organised crime. Anytime I've seen dumping in rural areas, I've always thought of it as just being extremely selfish people. But the more we dig into this, these are criminal gangs.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of money to be made by criminal gangs. So, for example, just from a very, very basic level, if you're having work done on your property, you either have to take the commercial waste from there to a dump, and you have to pay for it, or alternatively, some unscrupulous individuals will take it to a site which it will be moved on, or dump it themselves. Now, the police can look at seizing the vehicles, but it's getting the police resources into those places. The local authorities have powers. They can issue fixed penalty notices, £1,000 fine, If the matter goes to court, you're looking at a maximum of £50,000 in fines. So there are ways of actually being penalising these people, but it's actually getting the authorities to work together, the police, environment agencies, local authorities to work together, identify who these people are, gangs, and then sort of take quite tough action. So you have the potential of seizing vehicles. You have the potential of going to court, but that all takes coordinated work and a willingness by all the agencies. And at the moment, the police have so much responsibility. In the past, their resources have been reduced quite significantly, and they're now having to make priority decisions. And that's the difficulties we have at the moment.
Leane, just come in on that. Do you think this is in any way a priority for the police? They've so much to deal with and they're so stretched anyway. Do they care about some dumping in a field?
Well, what we've seen so far is that there is sort of a lack of response to deal with this. And if you look at the Environment Agency number of open investigations that they've got on waste sites, it's only just over 1,000. So it's really just scratching the surface of what's out there. There's a case in Cheshire where a site, it's not an illegal site, but it's been leaking PCBs for
What are these
decades.
chemicals?
These are toxic chemicals which have been linked to a whole range of awful diseases. And, you know, there was actually even a prosecution back in the 90s where the owner was fined a very small, like £9,000 or £11,000, small amount of money. The site was never cleaned up. It's still leaking. The local farmer he says there's sludge coming onto his farm all the time. It's got very high levels of this toxic chemical, and it's right in the drinking water zone. It's really near the source where we, pick up water for drinking. And the local kind of water company says, okay, it's not in here now, but it could be in the future. All these landfills are sort of potentially adding to, problems for the future, especially, and treatment could go up. The cost of treatment for our drinking water supplies if they are, compromised. Because it's not just illegal sites. There are also these historic old sites, thousands of them, like 22,000 in the UK alone. And they were brought in before there was any pollution control regulation. So they may not be lined. The pollution could be leaching out. And so that's part of a project that Watershed and Investigate Europe did. And we mapped as many as we could. But there could be 500,000, up to 500,000 across the continent, across Europe and the UK.
Which country do you think is doing the best at managing waste? Because it doesn't strike me it's the UK.
Well, when it comes to knowing where our waste is and at least documenting, and I think actually the UK, at least have some of the best data, because when we dug into the European data, it was there was no centrally held data. It's very hard to access and very fragmented. So I think when it comes to landfills and illegal landfills, I mean, France, we managed to map maybe about more than 700 illegal landfills. Also, Bulgaria has a big problem, but I'm not sure if anyone is doing the best enough. Yeah, definitely.
It's not enough. Thanks, Leane. Lorenzo, to you, talk to me about how the Italian police then and the authorities deal with this, because you have significant organised crime organisations, mafias in several regions of Italy, and they're making an awful lot of money out of this. How seriously do the police tackle this kind of dumping in Italy?
I will say that the police is doing their work at the best way possible, to be honest, but the connection with organized crime is very deep, and it's very difficult to be able to cut the head of all the organized crime, because there are many different kind of organizations. And so if you are able to put in prison just one boss, it's very difficult also to stop this kind of organized crime, because if you are able to put the boss in prisons, other kind of small organized crimes clan can rise and take the place to the boss and to the clan that the police were able to stop it. So, but for me, it's important when we talk about illegal landfills in the Italian situation to put also to talk about the other agents that allow this kind of business, because past investigations revealed that this organized crime business is possible just because many Italian companies in the past, and also some of them nowadays, preferred to get rid of the waste not in the proper way, so not with the proper treatment, because it is expensive, it costs more for the companies. So they preferred to give this to create this parallel market with organized group and say, okay, you take our waste and I can give you less money than do it in the proper way. And this is the origin of the business of the illegal dumping in Italy, because the industries of the North Italy, the richest regions in Italy, preferred just to bury to give this waste to organized crime and get rid of this waste without without be sure what was the consequences on the environmental, on the people. So it is always a matter of money, and the way to save money, it was to put this waste under the soil.
Dal, talk to me about the punishments here if people are caught dumping illegal waste in the countryside or indeed built-up areas. Are the punishments strong enough, do you think?
Well, if people can get a fixed penalty notice, which can be issued by local authority staff, and that is a fine up to £1,000. Some local authorities they do take it very, very seriously. But I think Lorenzo's point and Leane's point is that this is more than aesthetically not looking nice. It affects our environment, it affects drinking water, it has a much wider impact. So what we're not seeing is a sort of coordinated ability for the police, environmental agency and local authorities to work more closely together. But what we can do is, I think the key thing is to hit these people in the pocket and hit them hard in the pocket. It's about seizing their vehicles. It's about finding them, taking them to court and making sure when fixed penalty notices are issued that they're followed up. And I think we almost need a situation where people feel empowered and feel encouraged to report the crimes. And I think what's happened is, with all the cutbacks that we've had in various public sector organisations, people are sharing information, but action's not being taken. And so for the pile behind you to have accumulated, it would have taken huge trucks on an ongoing basis to turn up and dump that stuff.
And Dal, can I just ask, so where this is, Kidlington in Oxford, that's the headquarters of Thames Valley Police. I mean, what was the local intelligence doing? What was coming into the officers that this was happening not on one night? This went on for a long time.
Yeah, over a period of months. Yeah, absolutely. So, you speak to local residents in Oxfordshire and they will say that they saw trucks rolling up day after day after day. Now, you've got members of the public telling you that, then this is a classic thing where the police are saying, well, this is fly tipping, local authority, what you're doing, local council, what you're doing about it. Then the local council would have contacted the environmental agency. And so a lot of these things end up slipping in between. So it's about mandating these organisations to work more closely together. We know that in this country we've got huge problems with resources. We know there are some real challenges with the public sector organisations, but we've really got to get them to work together more effectively and take the issue of fly tipping, as it's known in this country, but it's illegal dumping, more seriously, but also really understand the consequences to our environment and the consequences to our health as well.
Leane, just come in on public education here and awareness, because these images have been everywhere across the UK media. They went viral on social media. Do you think the public needs to be made aware of what is actually leaching down into our soil, into our drinking water, and potentially getting into people's bodies?
Yes, I mean, if you look at the bigger picture, we're in a waste crisis, not just illegal waste dumps, but, many thousands of historical dumps, which may not have any kind of protection to stop pollution leaking. So, for example, I went up to a landfill in the northwest, and I tested a couple of the landfills and found extremely high levels of the toxic carcinogen, which is now banned, PFOA, forever chemical. So I was traipsing around in the mud, and I found that, and people have been complaining at one of those landfill sites of the terrible smells and what else could be leaking out. But yes, this is sort of falling through the cracks, because I guess this is a very big problem. And the public are engaged. They are calling up and complaining, but often, they're not seeing action being taken or being taken fast. There was a House of Lords report just in October, which kind of complained, and said how this is a fundamental problem with the Environment Agency being slow to take action and then managing to get successful convictions.
Lorenzo, to you, as we head towards a new year, have you any confidence that the Italian authorities might crack down on this kind of criminal activity in 2026?
Yeah, I think now that some things are going well. Now, in the last few years, the Italian government have nominated a special representative for cleanup and to deal with all the problem with the mass waste management in Italy. So, and I can see some things going better. For instance, in 2017, there was in Italy at around 100 landfills that needs to be cleaned up, and now there are just around 10. So they are working on it, but there are many other steps, many other things to do. I think that now the things are moving in a good way, but the situations it's not so good. So we need the time, and we need to operate. We need to acknowledge of the problem that Italy is living with the landfills, and yeah, it's not just something related to Italy, of course, but we are among the countries with more infringement cases related to waste in Europe. And there is one example very, very, very emblematic for me, and the fact that in the past, in 2013, in Italy, around the Rome zone, was closed what was the biggest landfills in Europe, but the remediation process just started this year. So we waited for 12 years to have this kind of cleanup of remediation of this area that is heavy contaminated and heavy polluted, and so it's last year report also reported that in the area there was some leakage, some contaminations and pollution of the groundwater and the soil. So for 12 years after the closing of the landfills that was closed thanks to the European Commission role that sanctioned Italy for these landfills. But after 12 years, just this year started the first step of the remediation. So this explains how much time we need when also an historical landfills on a landfills that was closed in the past, how much time need to pass until we can clean up and we can have a safer and healthier area.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Dal, just come in on the issue of passing the buck here, because the police will say it's the local authority, the county council's problem, and they will be saying that the police should be catching these people in the first place. Do you think that is part of the issue in the UK?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, ultimately, the police are the ones that have the power to stop vehicles, arrest people, use force if it's necessary. And some of these criminal networks are pretty nasty. You know, they're not frightened of using violence. If you're going to try and take their vehicle away, they're going to resist. So the police have to be a fundamental part of this. And so I think what we need is a coordinated approach with the police, local authorities, county councils, as you say, environmental agencies. So I think it needs to be much more joined up. I think it needs to be higher on people's priorities. And I think it's a national shame and scandal that we can have the kind of dump that happened in Oxfordshire, not just in one day, but over a number of months. And it was only when it went viral, the pictures, that we had the interest in removing it. So I think there is a need to be much more joined up. And I think we just need to make sure that people understand there's an education process for people to understand, actually, you dump things, there will be a cost. It may not come straight out your pocket if you're not caught, but your local community will end up having to pay because the local authority will have to remove it, will have to clear it.
Leanne, final point to you. Have you any confidence in the UK government to start treating stuff like this as a priority next year?
I think if the public interest is very high, then they might be kind of motivated to act, as is the case in this dump as well. I mean, in the UK, in this country, about 80% of the population are just 2 kilometres from a landfill. So all sort of, in some way, living on a garbage tip. And perhaps there's a bigger question to be asked here about our throwaway economy and
culture, how we live.
Exactly. And, the amount of waste that is just building up, and how are we going to cope with it?
Thanks, Leanne. Dal and Lorenzo in Florence as well. Thank you all so much. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.